And now I will announce one of my favorite and long-awaited talk. It's a business panel discussion. In this panel, more than 5 influential speakers from a diverse group of Dotsama project come together to discuss some potential use cases that Wasm unlocks for both developers and entrepreneurs, business leaders. Do you think that Wasm an essential building block for the future for decentralized apps development? Let's figure it out that. And our first speaker, unexpectable, as always, Markian, CEO and co-founder of Supercolony. Welcome. Hi.
Hi guys.
How do you feel about your second speech here? Are you ready?
Good. Feel very good, yeah, and excited. Let's see.
Yeah, let's see. And welcome a moderator of this panel. It's David Langelati, marketing manager at Subsquid. Welcome. Hello, David.
Everybody. Hi, nice to see you.
Hey, how's it going?
Things are going well. Been a busy day here at Subsquid, but ready to go.
Yeah, I think you're excited about the discussion as I am, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So could you announce all of our next speakers then?
Right. So we've got 4 great speakers today. So first, of course, we have Markian, who's going to be joining us. So that's really great. So he's the CEO of Supercolony. Great. Then we have Martin. He is coming from Astar, and he's got a really cool biography behind him. He's a real Renaissance man. Interested to talk to him a bit about that. We've got Nitin from Dia. Dia is an oracle, and it's actually the first oracle to integrate Wasm onto Astar. So there's some really interesting things to talk about there. Then we've got my boss, actually. So full disclosure, I've got to be a little nice to him. Dmitry, he's the CEO of Subsquid. And yeah, so those are our 4 guests today.
Hey, Martin.
Hey, hello.
Yeah, so it's nice to see you again, Martin. So I was reading your biography and I saw that you are a sommelier. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was one of my old passions, like having to drink like a good, decent glass of wine. And yeah, it was one of my passions before, and I still love drinking nice wine as well. So I think that's
Awesome.
perfect with blockchain as well.
So to stay on topic of the conversation we're going to have, what does wine have to do with Wasm?
Well, wine. I will just follow up with the speak that Hoon had with the presentation of the Swanky tool. I think wine is like Wasm in case like you can swanky it up if you have like a very nice meal with it as well. So wine and meal as well as Wasm and Web3, Wasm and Polkadot is like a perfect combination. That's why wine can be as well perfect as well with a nice decent meal as well.
That's an amazing answer. I was expecting you just to say they both start with W.
Yeah, that was an easy one. I think I go for the more difficult answer.
Okay, great. Yes, thanks. Hey.
Hey.
Hey, Nitin. Nice to see you. Nice to see you in person. So tell me, what was the hardest thing about building the first Wasm oracle for Astar?
It's like fragmented documentation. Thing is very scattered.
Yeah. Well, Martin's right here, so you can take it up with him.
Yeah, it's a new thing, so I think there is not much developing tools are available and not much, and it's getting upgraded every day. So some version is breaking for some particular version.
Yeah, but I think that's always the thing with being the first.
Yeah.
Hey, Dimitri. I'm not going to be any. You're not muted anymore. Yeah, I'm not going to be any easier on you because you're my boss. Can you tell me why you like squid so much? Like, what is the squid obsession?
Yeah, feel free to fire the questions on me. Yeah, I mean, I really like squids when they're cooked, to be honest. Lots of protein.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the naming, I really like the typography of the Q letter and the way that this tail sticks out of it. So that was one of the main reasons we decided to call our startup Subsquid, actually, because I really like how the logo looks like when you type it in different fonts.
Use a great letter. Okay, so I guess we can move on to our questions that are actually on topic. So this is actually a business-focused panel. We're going to try to get into more entrepreneurship-focused questions. But really, we want to find out how Wasm is shaping the building of Dapps and of Web3 in general. And we will also explore some of the potential use cases for Wasm. So I'll start with a roundtable question. And actually, I'd like Markian to give me the answer first. So I know you're an experienced entrepreneur. So if you were advising someone starting a new project, would you tell them to build with Wasm or EVM? And why or why not?
It's a very good question, and I think it's all about the mindset of the builder who is going to do something. If you are a builder that is just looking to launch something on blockchain and you want to do just the fork and change some front end and do some extra features, why use Wasm? If you want to build like something innovative, something new, something very excited, something that's more powerful than currently dApps are being built with EVM, then definitely go with Wasm, 100%. So it's the mindset of the builder saying yes or no. So going for innovation, Wasm is the place. Going for being another Uniswap fork, just do what you want to do.
If you're going for innovation, go for Wasm. There's the quote.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And Markian, how about you? When you are working with your portfolio companies, giving them advice, what are you going to say?
I mean, that would, of course, depend on the use case. But counting in the current state of Wasm, I mean, we're not a year ago when Wasm was only on the very raw stage. Counting that in, I would definitely recommend going with Wasm. Would be strange if we would recommend people going with EVM. And I think in the coming months, EVM will be no, not EVM, Wasm will be like on the stable stage, and that question will not even arise. Of course, there will be a few more things to resolve regarding Wasm, but I think in a few months, like Wasm will be fully ready, and in a stage when people will be like, okay, yeah, I can choose Wasm, and that will not create development problems for me.
Yeah, cool. And I wanted to get also Nitin's perspective here, because he's really in the woods. He's getting his hands dirty with it. Like if you're talking to some developers and they need to think about like development resources and how much time they're spending working on it, what would you tell them?
How much time they are going?
If you wanted to tell, if you were talking to some developers, new entrepreneurs, building something, would you tell them Wasm or EVM? Which is easiest for them?
That's first. So Wasm, the one thing Wasm is, it's Rust based. So there are already a developer who already knows the Rust. So it's very easy to onboard the Rust developers to Wasm. And if someone we want to onboard a Solidity guy, so he has to learn the Solidity from scratch. Yeah, it's also resembles some part of JavaScript, but the concepts of Solidity, it's really someone has to grab it from start. So
okay, so it's good for Web2 developers coming in too.
yeah, it's very good
Right.
for onboarding new developers onto the ecosystem.
Right. And Dima, I wanted to ask you the same question, but from the perspective of tooling. Like, where's the best way to go for a new project?
I think we have to admit that like Wasm is like basically just starting its journey, but I think it does provide the right trade-offs when it comes to composability and like being Rust native, so that it can actually have a native integration with the palette runtime. So on the other hand, you don't have to go for like a full-fledged parachain for launching a project. So it does seem to me like a very good set of trade-offs to launch a project on Wasm, especially since there are probably going to be like a few execution environments for this. When it comes to tooling, I think it is like always the infrastructure projects just follow the money, and I'm happy to say that we're Subsquid like no exception to this. So we try to become the first here on the market and provide the best tooling experience for the coming developers building on Wasm. So basically, tooling is on us, and we will do our best to make it pleasant to work at it, like at scale.
Well, I think everybody here is working on that. Yeah. Right. So let's get a little more general, actually. So the next question for everybody is, why is Wasm important for the future of Polkadot and even of Web3 in general? So first of Polkadot and then of Web3 in general. So Martin, do you have an answer?
Yeah, for me, like when listening to all the talks that are recently already been here before me, technical talks as well as here in this main channel, I think a lot of questions are already answered why Wasm is like the future that we are aiming to be. And I think this conference here now today is like the first starting point of getting Wasm more out there as well. I see inside of Polkadot, I see Wasm as one part of the Web3 future, because I also have a huge passion for the XCM behind this. And I think the combination of Wasm with the XCM can be the quote that I just mentioned, the innovation of the new Dapps coming for Web3. That can really be like the infrastructure for everything that the future of internet can bring. Currently, it's still, like all discussions already been, there are still some limitations, still not fragmented documentation. But this conference proves that there are so many people now working on this that it's just a matter of, let's say, a year or maybe 6 months when everything goes live and more is being developed as well. So why is Wasm important for the future of Polkadot? I think it's the starting point of the Web3 that is coming, in my opinion.
Yeah, and to go back to Nitin's point from before, we can easily onboard Web2 developers into Wasm.
Yes.
So that's going to mean that the documentation is going to improve at a much more a much faster rate. Same thing with different types of infrastructure tools. Those things are going to improve at a faster rate. There's just more people working on it. Great. So Mark-Jan, what do you think on this topic?
Well, my short answer to that is mass adoption. To me, mass adoption matters, and that's what we're trying to achieve, right? In Web3 future isn't about like a few people gathered and using the Web3 apps. If we want to have that future that we are talking about, we want people, just casual people, to be able to use Dapps that are really easy to use. And I think like one of the really great things that Polkadot is bringing is that ability that will like bring mass adoption forward. Things like forkless upgrades, because what people expect is from applications, it's just to go to the app and upgrade it itself by itself. Is no worry about it. And it's my belief that what Wasm is bringing as well to the ecosystem, and what Polkadot is bringing with Wasm, is also this like ability to develop applications on different kind of levels, both on the parachain levels and on the applications level, to develop them with a better development capability. And that is what matters, because without that, there will be no possibility to have the mass adoption we are talking about.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and that brings us back into the main business discussion, right? It's helping to develop the tools that we really need for entrepreneurs who are looking to build projects with larger market capitalizations, right? Great. But Nitin, how about you? What's your point of view? Like maybe slightly more technical.
So what I do is, so initially there is a, there is already a cargo, and so cargo we have already a packaging system in Rust. So there is a huge amount of library which is already written by developers and it's already available. Those are the utility tools we already have in Rust. So once we get this tooling done, which is like deploying contracts on particular chain, we have a fleet of library which is already available with us, so that can be reused in smart contract. So in Solidity we never had this kind of library which was already available. So in Rust, all the well tested library which are already being used by some big projects are already
Mhm.
available in cargo package system. So it's
Mhm.
very easy to import it. And then in case if you're using some particular library, you are going to save some time on auditing also.
Mhm. Right, and it all goes back to that mass adoption point.
Yeah.
Ultimately, right? Everything leads to that. Great. And Dima, what do you think?
Yeah, these were really great points. So there is not much to add. Probably Wasm may become a key differentiating factor for Polkadot overall compared to other Ethereum killers like Avalanche, let's say Near, and others, because they're in Polkadot. That could be like a shelling point for Wasm contracts, and that would be like the place where to go if you are going to build at Wasm. And why on Wasm? Yeah, there were like excellent points that Martin, Nitin, and Martin already mentioned. So I'm not going into this. So I think like when we were speaking about Polkadot, it could be like a very great marketing and differentiating factor for the
Mhm.
ecosystem in general. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It could. It's a huge differentiator. Absolutely. Yeah. If we're trying to go get those developers that are looking for something in the space, it's a huge differentiator. Yeah. Great. Okay. So I'd like to go on, and I'm going to ask some questions that are more geared to each of you, just so that we can get some more variety into our discussion. So first, I have a question for Martin about Astar, of course. So, what were the drivers behind Astar's decision to add support for Wasm?
Well, if you look at our about, it's about Astar is trying is the smart contract hub on Polkadot. But this
Mhm.
is with smart contracts, we mean like not only EVM, but we also want to focus on Wasm. Wasm was actually from the start in our roadmap that we really wanted to do this, because not only we empower the language of ink that was invented by Gavin Woods, but we also were behind the vision of creating that language and used by in the Wasm framework. So that's why we were aiming, or we were going toward a smart contract hub, because the EVM was already available. Everything was there as well to start with, for getting traction to an ecosystem, to get traction onto our blockchain, to get all new dApps as well into our ecosystem. But going for that, like I was saying, that innovation, Wasm will be there, and that's why we are now, our focus for 2022 is purely on Wasm from now on. And yeah, that's basically our drivers behind why we will choose Wasm for this next quarters to focus on.
So, I know you have a computer science background, but you're actually the head of ecosystem development. You're actually on the business side. So, I've got to ask you, uh, does it have anything to do with being competitive? Does it have anything to do from any of those business perspectives?
Not really, not really. That has to do
No?
with the business perspective. Basically, I like the innovation that is coming now to us, and I think the innovation is here with Polkadot. I
Mhm.
started getting into Polkadot, I think, 2 years ago with the hackathon. I started learning more
Mhm.
about Polkadot. Then I started to learn more about Wasm. I already knew about EVM. I already knew about Solidity. But that moment that you are discovering Polkadot and the power of Wasm, that was like, yeah,
Mhm.
something lighted up in my head, and that was like, okay, that will be like the future. And then me, as joining this startup with Astar, we also had the vision from Astar, like everyone is equal. We are wearing different kinds of hats to do different kind of things. I was working on development side, I was working on biz dev, and so on and so on. But yeah, I think I'm now just focusing on the biz dev because I really want to have the Wasm more spread out and more used as well for new partners that are coming to Polkadot.
Yeah, no, I really understand that. When you think about the really sophisticated dApps that are coming, thanks to Wasm, it gets really exciting, and you start to feel that you really want to make this happen.
Yeah, of course, yes.
Okay, Nitin, so I have a similar question for you. So why did Dia decide to integrate Wasm? Why did you decide to work so hard on this at this moment?
Okay, so what we think is the future is of multi-chain. So we have already seen how the L2 thing ecosystem grown up suddenly, and there are many chains. So similarly, we can see there is a vision on Wasm-based chains which are upcoming. So like what we want to provide the oracles to the chain which are already available. So as the oracle is the main backbone of the dApp which is needed. If you need some kind of data, you need oracle. If we are not there in chain, there will be a missing thing which will be which you are not going to get in the application features. So that's why we want to like give the oracle in as most chain as possible.
Okay, you needed to get the article to as many chains as possible and get as much data out there to developers as possible.
Yeah.
And it was just part of that mission. Got it. Great. Actually, that's a great way. It would be great to talk to Dimitri about this at the same time, because obviously we at Subsquid focus on on-chain data. So why is Subsquid choosing to focus on Wasm right now? Why are we doing that?
Yeah, so we are building a backbone for on-chain data, for accessing on-chain data of Polkadot and Kusama. And of course, as an infrastructure company, we have to make a bet on where all the developers going to go and what would be the next step of the development of the platform. And for us, I think it is pretty clear that Wasm is definitely going to play an important role, if not the most important role in the ecosystem. And this is, of course, then our top priority to get the best indexing and developer experience for accessing this data, and make sure that the dApp builders are focusing on the business logic and don't care about all the indexing and like this boring infrastructure stuff that is at the same time is crucial for smooth experience for the users.
So just like Dia, Subsquid is trying to expand the frontiers of what developers can do.
Yeah, basically you always go where you think like the best, like the most chunk of the user is going to go.
Cool. And Markin, similar question for you. Why has Super Colony chosen to focus so much on Wasm at this point? I mean, you guys put a whole conference on about it. Why?
That goes back to the vision of our venture studio. And, in a venture studio, we build companies. But we also understand that if you want to build successful companies, you have to have successful foundation. And for us, Wasm is a huge part of that. And so a year ago, we saw there is a huge hole in the Wasm. And Polkadot is growing, Parity is busy with parachains and stuff. And we also feel like if you want to expect a decentralized community, like if you want to expect a participation of people, then we really cannot expect that someone has to develop the infrastructure for us. We feel like that's our responsibility, and the responsibility of other businesses as well to engage and to build the tools that we want to use. That's why we decided to engage and build the Polkadot infrastructure together. That's why we want to build an alliance, and I will talk a bit more about alliance in the next speech.
So are there any projects that you guys are working on that really depends on Wasm?
At the moment, yes, and we're looking to launch more. We had a talk with Rashid earlier today. There are two projects, Funders and Dex, all part of Alliance Block. And Alliance Block is a cross-chain organization. They have products on EVM and on Dink. And the ones on Dink going to be launched as soon as contract split will be enabled. So like as soon as a month, hopefully it will be like very soon.
Sounds great. Okay, so let's move on to the next batch of questions. And I think we're going to get a little bit more negative here. So I want to know, Martin, what are the real challenges of Wasm for Astar as a smart contract hub?
Yeah, the real challenges. I think a lot of people, or some people, not saying a lot of people, some people are thinking about, oh, it's just you plug your chain as a parachain, you enable the smart contract palette, and up you go. You have your smart contracts, and you can start building your ecosystem and dApps. But that's completely wrong, because that can do everybody. But the problem here, or the challenge here, is like, if you want to have those innovative dApps, if you want to have dApps on Wasm, what do you need? You need an explorer that is ready for handling this, to do smart contracts verifications. You need to have an indexer for any DeFi dApp that wants to use an index. You need to have an Oracle to get the price feeds as well. If you don't have those infrastructure partners ready for Wasm, nobody can build on you, or it will just be a flipper contract, or just a token that can't do anything, or just there's nothing you can do with your smart contracts. So you need to have all those partners first ready, starting to build the infrastructure needs, and then you can start onboarding projects. And that was the great thing when talking to Dia about, okay, you guys are doing a great job on the EVM side regarding your Oracle. What are your feelings about Wasm? Can you guys do like Wasm? What do you think? And I think Dia was like immediately saying, okay, let's go. And they already got an Oracle ready in our testnet on Wasm. So that's amazing. And that was the same with the Subsquid team as well. Like, are you guys also looking into Wasm? And you guys are already busy, already working on this, already has this in the vision. So it was perfect. And I think for us, it's a challenge, because we had to look in a very small field of partners. Like if you go to EVM, it's much easier. There's a lot of players on the market. You can contact that indexer, you can contact that Oracle, try to get them on board, and okay, you can go further. But for the Wasm, it was a really challenge, because we really had to look inside the projects who were already doing something for Dotsama ecosystem. And that was Subsquid, that was Dia, and there are other partners as well. But yeah, this was our main challenge. And I think a lot of people forget about this. Without those partners, we can't do anything with Wasm, smart contracts. So yeah, thank you, Subsquid, thank you, Dia.
But really, this brings up what's so great about Dotsama. In Dotsama, if there's something that doesn't exist yet, or maybe that somebody could be working on, but you're not sure about it, you can just send them a message, and they'll probably, like 9 times out of 10, answer. That doesn't happen in the Ethereum world. That doesn't happen elsewhere.
No.
Yeah.
That's correct. And I also forget about the standardization that Markian and the Super Colony is doing with the PSD34 as well. That's needed as well for new developers knowing the standards for the smart contracts with Ink. So, and you were saying as well, David, now the difference with the Polkadot community is that we are not like an isolated blockchain, or we at Astar not an isolated blockchain. We need each other. So, and that's also the vision that Gavin Woods had with the XCM. If there was no communication with each other, or there's no interaction with each other, why create something that the vision has as Polkadot? So I think the partners currently in the Dotsama ecosystem, we are like a family working together, trying to get things done. And that's so great about this conference as well. Markian and Tomar and Alina are doing great to getting all those partners talks as well, and this proves that there was a need for this as well. Mm-hmm. And I think, yeah, that's great. Sorry, it took longer than that.
No, it's beautiful. But actually, it leads right into Nitin, to the question I have for Nitin. So can you explain, I think maybe some people in the audience, I think since this is the business stage, we have some not so technical people in the room. Can you explain exactly how does Dia, an Oracle platform, contribute to the Wasm ecosystem?
So as a Dia, what we can do is we can provide as many feed which we have to the Wasm ecosystem. So it's like what kind of feed. So generally, if in Ethereum mainnet we have a feeds available for multiple things, like multiple things like price data for randomization. So these are the thing which really require from a Dapps. So there is no random number generator in Wasm ecosystem. So these kind of things DIA can provide, and we are already working on these kind of product which we can provide on Wasm network. And once we release this, it opens a, a ton of capability for a developer to create a multiple things which uses the real time data. So answer comes on what is the benefit of Oracle. So we are just providing Oracle, and the benefit of Oracle is huge. So we can keep on talking about the oracles, what benefit it can give.
Yeah. No, I think most people in the audience will know about that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and Dima, tell me, what are the challenges that you see in indexing Wasm smart contracts, especially compared to other, maybe even EVM?
Yeah, so there is a challenge which is common with EVM, and there is something that is a huge bonus for Wasm developers, but is a big pain for getting indexing right. So the first challenge is that you actually need to have sort of API, the metadata for the contract that you should look up for each contract separately in order to decode the data properly. And you cannot really escape this. So for EVM, this is called ABA. For Wasm contracts, this is like a special metadata file. This is somewhat similar to the situation we had with Substrate. So in order to decode Substrate data, we had to come up with type definitions for very long until very recently there was an upgrade where metadata is actually packed into the blockchain. Maybe at some point there will be some solution. I'm not sure how exactly it's going to work, so that you don't actually need to figure out this specific metadata file for each contract that you want to decode and index the data for. That's kind of half of the problem. And the other half of the problem is that unlike smart contracts, Wasm contracts are upgradable. Normally, like from the indexing perspective, you just say, okay, if you're doing an upgradable, like indexing for an upgradable contract, just let the devs figure it out and basically move the burden to their shoulders. Where Subsquid actually try to go 1 mile further, and we develop tooling that actually allows to have type safe access for data, even if they were historical upgrades. So this is what we support for Substrate runtimes, and this is exactly the experience that we want to have for Wasm developers. So you never have to manually look up where exactly your contract was upgraded. You don't have to worry about untyped JSON handling, so everything is as type safe as possible. So everything that you do with data indexing and data manipulation, like any error is caught at compile time. So this is like our goal, and this is like the standard of tooling that we set for Subsquid, and this is definitely sort of a challenge for Wasm indexing. That's pretty much it.
That's interesting. Yeah, a little over my head, to be honest. But let's move on to a more entrepreneurial question. Yes, so Markian, so I know that you guys' goal is to increase the market cap of your portfolio companies, but why would you focus on something as challenging as Wasm if that's your goal?
Question lies the answer. If you really want to grow your market capitalization, you have to focus on something big. And I feel, and we feel in the company, like the infrastructure, the fundamental layer, is behind everything that goes up next. And if you think like that, then the answer is obvious. Like if we really want to be successful in business in terms of growing successful companies, we have to think firstly on fundamental things like Wasm.
You have to think about things like fundamentals and also think ahead, right, about what's coming. And I think that's what everybody in this room has done, right? Everybody has thought ahead a little bit about what's coming next. Like, I think really the keyword.
Just one thing I wanted to add to the previous question, because I feel like I should add one point more. I'd like to agree with Martin that the big challenge of Wasm currently is in the ecosystem, and we see that a lot right now. And I want to applaud all those brave companies that are entering Wasm and developing the ecosystem, because without you guys, there will be no ecosystem, and no company by itself could develop the ecosystem. We need oracles, we need indexers, we need the tools like OpenBrush, like Sol2Ink. Adding more on top to that, the current challenge, like the thing that I would like to share, now the biggest challenge of Wasm contracts to be ready is the size of the contracts, because we all know that Wasm is very efficient, and it is related to how it's how it's technically built. It's related to the types, how Wasm handles types inside the language. That's why mathematical operations are very fast in Wasm. And Solidity, it handles types differently. It doesn't have a variety of types inside, and that's why Solidity is slow. But precisely because of that, Wasm contracts, they execute with great efficiency, but the size of the contract is big. And that's the current problem that we are trying to solve, the size of the contract. And that is especially becomes a challenge with how Polkadot works with shared security. Because when you do currently a call from one contract to a different contract, you have to send a proof of connection with all of those contracts. So like if you call from one contract 10 different contracts, that usually happens. Like that's not an unusual case. For example, in Uniswap, you can call 10 contracts like on a regular basis. That would mean that you, with inside this proof of connection, you are sending not only the size of the one contract, you are immediately sending the size that's equal to 11 contracts. And that right now poses one of the biggest challenges that we should overcome. But I can assure you that we are working on it and it will be overcome.
So I have a follow-up question to you, and I'm going to ask it to everybody right after. What is a use case that is enabled by Wasm that wasn't possible before? What is some what is some use case that you're imagining when you're talking about these technical details that go over my head, actually? What is a use case that you have in mind?
Okay, so you want me to explain my my example in more details?
Just a use case like a type of Dapp, like a user would use.
Yeah, I mean it would apply to any application. The problem of the size, it would apply to any application. That's just the technical thing that has to be overcome in order for contracts to be like enabled and to work efficiently.
So is there something that we can't do now that we will be able to do in the future thanks to Wasm?
Yeah, so in like if you want to explain in different words, I can explain from the gas perspective. On the recent releases, it was enabled that the gas is calculated also including the size of the contract. And so if your contract has a huge size, you would pay a lot of gas for that. And if your contract is calling 10 different contracts, then you would pay like 10x times for the gas. Even if you call a small function in that contract and you're sending all that information to the network because that is needed as part of proof of connection in order to check by the validators if everything is correct. So one thing that could be done and one thing that we are trying to do currently is to not send the full contract. Like if you're calling one function in that contract, to not send the full contract, but only that function. But we are still trying to figure out if that's possible to do.
That's
I hope that makes sense.
No, it definitely helps. It definitely helps. Okay, we're running out of time, so I'm going to ask this final question to everybody. In 5 years, do you think Wasm will have taken over? And how do you think its role will compare to EVM? So where will Wasm be and where will EVM be? So I guess, Martin, this is a great question for you to start with, given that you guys do both.
Yeah, it's a nice question. It's a great question. It's a great question to think about. Where will we be in 5 years? I see the Wasm smart contracts a gateway for Web 2 coming to Web 3. Why do I see this? Like it was already told with Nitin about having to write smart contract with EVM. You have to learn the language. It's similar to other language, but you still have to learn it. It's a very small pool. Like if you are a company and you want to do something in blockchain, it doesn't mean your company has to be all into blockchain, but just maybe a small part of the company into blockchain. You have to hire somebody with the background of Solidity now. You have to hire somebody with blockchain experience. You have to hire somebody who also already knows what to do. With Wasm, you can easily use your already existing developers in your company to write a Wasm smart contract because it can be compiled with so many languages, compiled to so many languages. And I think that's why I think Wasm in 5 years, can it be bigger than EVM? It's difficult to say, but we will have much more developments going on Wasm because of the Web 2 coming into Web 3 with the already existing developers already inside in the companies that can use blockchain very easily without hiring new people. And I think that will be the power of Wasm, and that will be the power of scaling blockchain in general.
It's really interesting. Yeah. Again, just going right back to Nitin's point, right? And what do you think, Nitin?
I have a very optimism thing on Wasm. So the reason behind is, one is Rust. There is already a fleet of developer which are very fond of Rust. Rust is like it's like a cult. So it's we have a lot of developer which they are going to come. And currently, what are the things which are missing in Wasm is the tool chain. But those are the same developer which are going to come and create the tool chain. And what Martin has explained, that if there is a lot of thing which is like you need indexing, you need the explorer. So that tool chain is missing, and I think this work is already going on. So after 5 years, I see a very positive future for Wasm.
Yeah, just from the business perspective, really. And yeah, Dima, what's your point of view?
Yeah, so in my opinion, EVM and Ethereum in particular is not going anywhere. So probably it's going to be around in 5 years, same as Polkadot. But what I think is very probable is that we will see kind of specialization across different chains. Even today, we have some chains which are considered to be better for, say, like NFT trading, and some chains are considered to be like a settlement layer. So I think with tools like Wasm, we would probably see just a lot more variety of things and depths in Web3. So it will be like basically like a whole zoo, and there will be a bunch of applications which basically flourish on Wasm, and that would be like a very big niche, a very big part of the whole Web3 ecosystem. So I think they will have some kind of differentiation across the board.
That's a really interesting point, and I actually want to ask Markian about that. Do you think in 5 years, most new projects will be building their own blockchain or parachain, or developing a smart contract on Wasm?
I was giving to this question a lot of thoughts. I can say that I don't have a definite answer on it. That would depend on a lot of factors. So right now, and I think that question was discussed a lot on this conference right now, like today. And I'm happy that it was, because it's really important. And right now, we don't see that a lot because, especially in Polkadot, it's really hard to develop a parachain. It takes a lot of time. It's far more easier. If your need is to develop an application, it's far more easier to just develop an application on the smart contracts level. I mean, smart contracts is business logic, and parachain is far more than that. It's an infrastructure. It's like it's far more than that. But if we were to make so that it's as easy to launch a blockchain as to develop a contract for an application, if blockchains really become like an application, because it's like you can look at it from different perspectives. Like if you scale the level of abstraction, if the inside process will be as easy for the blockchain to be developed as for an application on the contracts level, then definitely, why not? If that is, of course, going to make sense from a technical level, it is definitely a good question, and we will continue to explore it.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about the topic and other things in talk that's coming up right away. So unfortunately, we've run out of time. So I appreciate everybody for coming to listen to our chat, all the speakers' time that they took out of their
It was
day.
incredible discussion.
And thanks.
Thank you, guys. I
Yeah,
got
it
a
was
lot of
really
insights
interesting.
today. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye for
Bye.
now.
See you.
See you in the Dotsama community.